Good day everyone, so I asked little Nahida here, how should we build Kokomi for Nilou Bloom Teams, and she suggested we do some sort of test against a single target using the exact same rotations, but all we do is we're just going to vary the build so that we can more or less assess what the impacts are. So this is what you'll be sort of seeing in today's video. Now this is kind of an important question because if you're running the most meta Nilou team, that is Nahida, Kokomi, Kole, and Nilou, then of course you want to ensure that you get a decent balance between the output and of course the healing that you have, because if you only have one healer and you're not very savvy in terms of your rotations, you can get into trouble. And I know for a lot of casual players, getting that right balance is important. So this is what we will explore today. Right, so to kick it off, here it is, all of the EMs, everything you can think of, as much EM as possible. This is, as you can see on screen, without any buffs, so this is just from weapons and artifacts that you can sort of get. Obviously barring a couple of like artifact subsets and so on, you could obviously kind of push this, but I think 1100 is more than good enough. Remember, obviously with Nahida and Nilou, you're going to get even more EM buffs, and it's going to take it up to 1800. It's quite significant. Right, so let's get into our first test. We are going to be running this against the sort of flying dinosaur. I'm going to use the exact same rotations for all of the different teams, and what I want you to sort of note is that the Dendro aura on the enemy is going to stay there. So barring just like what we've did in the beginning, I've played this rotation in such a way such that we will always have that Nilou and Kokomi over once triggering as many of the bountiful core explosions. And there you go, there is the time on screen, about 23ish seconds. Right, so how does a hybrid build do in comparison? Well, let me just quickly show you what I'm going to change. So here is an elemental mastery. We're going to change this to healing bonus. We're now going to take the sands and we're going to make this an HP sand. Very much a sort of hybrid sort of way of doing it. You still have the EM weapon, but our stats have gone like a bit down, but you can see across the board things are a bit like more balanced out. So let's see what this team is going to do at the exact same rotation in the exact same way. You can almost count it to a frame. I made sure to make this as comparable as possible. We run forward, Nahida, we dash. Now we're going to with Kokomi, 1-in-1, go to Nilou, and then obviously try and finish this off with Nahida again. So this is what we have, and as you can see, we're going to be about 1 second slower than the full sort of build. And obviously, finally, let's go to the classic Kokomi build. So this is the HP, hydro damage, and healing bonus. This is with her signature weapon. So this is the no EM Kokomi build. So the only EM that we're really going to get is from Nahida and Nilou. Right, so let's just sort of see how this performs. We're going to do the exact same things in the exact same way that we did previously. Kokomi, Kole's Q, Kole E. And now we're going to shoot down the little dinosaur. And then we're going to dash against it, Nahida, Nahida E, Kokomi Elemental Burst, Kokomi Normal Attack, Nilou Elemental Burst, Nahida, and this is in the exact same way, in the exact same order, but you do notice that it's slightly slower. You can see there is like a bit of like a damage difference. So yes, the EM does matter quite a bit. Now, since you guys are not speed running, it might feel like there wasn't that much of a difference, but in the world of C6 characters, that 3 seconds of difference is kind of very significant. But nonetheless, so what does this actually mean for most of you that are F2P and so on? Well, I think from my perspective, as long as you build your Kokomi in a really balanced way, so perhaps an EM Sands, EM Goblet, Healing Bonus Circlet, or like a decent hybrid build, I think you'll be good to go. The most important thing that I've seen for casual players is that the Sacrificial Fragments weapon provides you that additional flexibility to reposition your jellyfish and get another instance of healing off, because every single time you cast it, you'll automatically heal Kokomi, and I think that comfort combined with, let's say, an HP Sands and like a healing bonus circlet and an EM Goblet would be sufficient for most people. Contrary to what a lot of people think, it's not Kokomi solely being the one triggering like Blooms and Nilou Bloom Teams. Nilou herself is actually contributing to quite a bit of the damage herself. This is one of the things a lot of people don't get, is it's the fact that Nilou plays a much more active role in these Bloom teams. I know some people have said, well, Nilou is just an artifact, you press her E once and you forget about her, but that's not really the case. Nilou's ring, her elemental burst, that's quite significant. Quite a big chunk of the damage is attributable to Nilou being the one triggering things, and I think when you are casual and you don't play your rotations properly, you get this mix of Hydro and Dendro auras on the enemies, and then your Bloom ownership becomes way more ambiguous, in which case having a fully or dedicated like EM Kokomi build becomes even less significant because she's going to be triggering a lot less. So this is why I would still advocate for like a very like balanced position, and that would serve most people really well. But yeah, that is what I have to say. I do think that the key thing to these Nilou Bloom teams is just understanding that the order in which you play is so important. The fact that if you, for instance, if you're using Collate, that you're hugging your enemies and getting off that extra Dendro instance to trigger with Nahida and so on, all of these things add up, and ultimately this is what makes a team that seems to be on the surface like a bit of a gimmicky team actually a very high skill team, and that's what makes it fun. Alright, hopefully you've enjoyed this guide. Thanks for watching.